What is phagocytosis? Can we explain with the help of an example? Yes. The process by which the particles larger than the macromolecules are engulfed into the cells is called phagocytosis. It is also known as cell eating. An example is transport of larger bacteria, larger antigens, and other larger foreign bodies inside the cell. Can you name the cells which show phagocytosis? Of course, the cells are neutrophils, monocytes, and tissue macrophages. How do we define homeostasis? So the maintenance of constant internal environment is known as homeostasis. What are the mechanisms involved in homeostatic control system? Can we explain them? The homeostatic control system is mainly controlled by the feedback mechanism. One, negative feedback. That is, if the activity of a particular system increases, it will be immediately regulated by reduction. Example, thyroxine secretion. The negative feedback controls most of the homeostatic mechanism. Second is positive feedback. When the activity of a particular system increases, it will be further increased. Example, formation of prothrombin activator during coagulation, secretion of oxytocin during milk ejection reflex, and pain produced during labor. Positive feedback is less common than the negative feedback. However, it has its own significance, particularly during emergency. Friends, in short, we can say negative feedback are like brakes applied. Positive feedback will be like an accelerator. What is pH? pH is the expression of hydrogen ion concentration. What is the normal pH of extracellular fluid? And the normal pH of extracellular fluid is 7.4. It varies between 7.38 and 7.42 in physiological conditions. How is the pH of extracellular fluid and plasma determined? To determine the pH of extracellular fluid, the concentrations of bicarbonate ions and carbon dioxide dissolved in the fluid are measured, and pH is calculated by using Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. The pH of plasma is determined by pH meter. What are the mechanisms which regulate acid-base balance? One is blood buffer system. Second, respiratory mechanism. Third, renal mechanism. What are the buffer systems in the body? First is bicarbonate buffer system. Second, phosphate buffer system. Third, protein buffer system. Do you know what is the basic mechanism involved in the regulation of acid-base balance by respiratory system? The respiratory system regulates acid-base balance by regulating carbon dioxide content in the blood. What is the basic mechanism involved in the regulation of acid-base balance by kidney? Kidney regulates acid-base balance by secretion of hydrogen ions and retention of bicarbonate ions. Do you know what are the disturbances of acid-base status? First is acidosis. When hydrogen ion concentration increases, it leads to reduction in pH, and it is called as acidosis. Second is alkalosis. That is, when hydrogen ion concentration decreases, it leads to increase in pH, and it is known as alkalosis. Can we classify acidosis? Respiratory acidosis that occurs during respiratory disturbances is due to the increase in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide above 60 mmHg in the arterial blood. Metabolic acidosis occurs during metabolic disturbances, and it is due to excessive accumulation of organic acids like lactic acid, acetoacetic acid, and beta-hydroxybutyric acid. Can you name some conditions when respiratory acidosis occurs? Respiratory acidosis occurs in conditions leading to hypoventilation, like airway obstruction, as in bronchitis, lung diseases, like fibrosis, respiratory center depressions by anesthetics, sedatives, etc. Extrapulmonary thoracic diseases like kyphosis and scoliosis. Neural diseases like poliomyelitis. In fact, even when paralysis of respiratory muscles occurs, it can lead to respiratory acidosis. Can you name some conditions when metabolic acidosis occurs? First is lactic acidosis, as in circulatory shock, ketoacidosis, as in diabetic mellitus, uric acidosis, as in renal failure, and acid poisoning. Also renal tubular acidosis and loss of excess of bicarbonate ions, as in diarrhea. What are the types of alkalosis? Respiratory alkalosis that occurs during respiratory disturbance is the first type, and it is due to the reduction in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the arterial pressure. And second is metabolic acidosis that occurs during metabolic disturbances, and is due to excessive loss of hydrogen ions from the body. Can you name some conditions when respiratory alkalosis occurs? Conditions are: first, hyperventilation, which is the primary cause for loss of excessive carbon dioxide from the body, leading to respiratory alkalosis. And hyperventilation occurs in hypoxic conditions, cerebral disturbances, and psychological and emotional trauma. Can you name some conditions when metabolic alkalosis occurs? Metabolic alkalosis occurs due to loss of excess hydrogen ions that occurs in vomiting and diarrhea, endocrine disorders like Cushing's syndrome and Crohn's disease syndrome, and diuretic therapy. The intracellular fluid has more sodium content than the potassium. What do you think? Is this statement correct? No. It is the other way around. In fact, intracellular fluid has more potassium content than the sodium. Can you give a brief description of chromosomes? Chromosomes are fine thread-like structures forming the chromatin in the nucleus and are made up of specific tiny structures called genes. The various hereditary peculiarities of the cell are passed on from one generation to other by the chromosomes to the genes of which the chromosomes are composed of. Do you know what is the number of chromosomes in somatic cells of human being? There are 46 number of chromosomes, that is 22 pairs of somatic chromosomes and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. What is the difference between mitotic and meiotic cell division? In mitotic cell division, number of chromosomes remains the same, whereas in meiotic cell division, the number of chromosomes is half. This here is a diagrammatic representation of mitosis, where we see these are the phases: the interphase, the prophase, the metaphase, and the telophase. Can you name the various phases in mitotic divisions of a cell? These are, as we just said, interphase, prophase, metaphase, cleavage state, that is anaphase and telophase. What is DNA composed of? DNA has phosphoric acid, that is deoxyribose, and 4 nitrogenous bases, that is 2 purines, adenine and guanine, and 2 pyrimidines, that is thymine and tyrosine.